Before the skyscrapers, before the man-made islands, the foundation of Dubai wasn't built on sand, and it wasn't built on oil. It was built in the crushing, silent depths of the sea, and its currency was breath. Let us start with the sound of water slipping against heavy wood. It is early morning by the Dubai Creek. The sun is only just beginning to push through the coastal haze, casting a pale gold light across the water. A man sits near the edge of the wooden docks. His hands are mapped with deep lines, the kind of texture only decades of salt and labor can carve into human skin. He is holding a small woven basket. Inside are shells, not the polished ones you see in souvenir shops, but rough, calcified stones pried from the seabed. When he speaks, his voice has the quiet rhythm of the tides. He remembers the songs they used to sing when the shore disappeared from view. He remembers the weight of the stone tied to his foot. We are standing in the shadow of a skyline that looks like science fiction. Yet the true foundation of this city was built right here in the shallow waters of the Arabian Gulf. It was built by men who tied their lives to a single breath, diving deep into the blinding blue to find something precious hiding in the dark. You can smell the sharp tang of brine mixing with the exhaust of passing water taxis. The air is already heavy with morning heat. If you close your eyes and listen past the hum of the modern traffic, you can almost hear the rhythmic chanting of the sailors echoing off the water. We are about to step into a memory that shaped the soul of the Emirates. Welcome to Culture Journey. When we think of Dubai today, we imagine the impossible. We see islands shaped from sand, buildings piercing the stratosphere, a global metropolis gleaming in the middle of a harsh desert landscape. But there is a quieter, much older pulse to this place. It beats just beneath the surface. Before the oil was discovered, before the highways were paved, the heartbeat of the region was tied entirely to the sea. We are exploring a world that has almost vanished into memory. A time when summer meant leaving home for 4 grueling months, sailing out into the blinding heat of the Gulf with nothing but a wooden boat, a nose clip made of turtle shell, and the absolute trust you placed in the man holding your rope on the deck above. This is the story of the Pearl Divers. It is a story of endurance, brotherhood, and a fragile beauty that once sustained an entire culture. We are not just looking at history today. We are walking through the lived experience of the grandfathers of this city. Let us walk away from the climate-controlled malls and step down into the older neighborhoods near Al Fahidi. The air here feels thicker. You can smell cardamom and roasted coffee mixing with the damp scent of the nearby creek. There are wooden dhows tied to the moorings. They look ancient, but many are still used for trade across the Gulf. Run your hand along the teak wood of one of these boats. It feels warm, hardened by the sun, and polished by decades of salt spray. The wood groans slightly as the boat shifts on the small waves. Imagine being here exactly a century ago. It is June. The great diving season is about to begin. The entire community gathers at the shore. The atmosphere is heavy with a mixture of celebration and unspoken anxiety. Women stand by the water edge, singing songs of safe return, their voices carrying over the splashing waves. Children watch their fathers climb aboard the heavy wooden vessels. For the next 4 months, the rhythm of their lives will be dictated entirely by the sea, returning to the shallows only when their water runs low. There is no romanticism out there on the open water, only brutal heat and glaring light. Yet, cutting through the heavy silence is the voice of the Naham, the ship's singer. His chants are the heartbeat of the vessel, prayers for protection, laments for families left behind, and rhythmic calls to the sea. His voice is the tether that keeps the men connected to their faith and their homes. When the deep, guttural chorus of the crew joins him, vibrating in your own chest, you realize this sound isn't just music. It is the sound of sheer human will. Now picture the diver. He wears only a simple cotton wrap to protect himself from jellyfish. No oxygen tanks, no goggles, no wetsuits. He seals his nose with a fitam, a traditional clamp carved from turtle shell or sheep horn, shaped to pinch tight and keep the salt water out. He wraps protective leather covers over his fingers to save them from the razor-sharp rocks and coral below. A heavy stone is tied to a rough rope. He loops his foot into a small sling above the stone. He takes one final deep breath of the hot ocean air. And then he drops, down into the heavy, silent blue. At 15 meters deep, the ocean tightens around him. The bright surface sunlight fades into a heavy, murky green. He has at most 2 minutes. Moving blindly along the seabed, he tears oysters from the rough coral, shoving them into the woven basket around his neck. His lungs ache. The salt stings his open eyes. Down here, the silence is total, save for the frantic hammering of his own heart. But he does not swim up. He cannot waste the precious energy. Instead, he tugs the rope. On the deck above stands the puller. The diver's life rests entirely in the calloused hands of this man. The puller feels that single, desperate tug through the heavy, wet rope. Instantly, he hauls the line up with frantic speed, pulling his partner back from the edge of darkness. The muscles in his back strain, his feet planted firmly on the slippery wooden deck. When the diver breaks the surface, the gasp for air is ragged and desperate. He tosses the heavy basket on the deck, takes a few deep breaths, and prepares to drop again. 50 times a day. Sometimes more. Imagine the absolute trust this requires. A silent conversation through a wet rope connecting a man in the crushing depths to a man in the blinding sun. It is a profound human bond. If the puller loses his grip, if he is distracted by the heat, or if his hands simply give out, the diver does not return. They are two halves of a single breath. This brotherhood, forged in salt and exhaustion, is the true foundation of Emirati society. It taught them that survival depends entirely on relying on one another. As the sun finally begins to set, the punishing heat softens into a warm coastal breeze. The water turns the color of molten copper, catching the last light of the fading day. The diving stops, but the work does not. It is time to open the shells. This is a quiet communal ritual. The men sit in tight circles on the crowded deck, the air thick with the smell of raw fish, ocean brine, and exhaustion. Using special curved knives called miflak, they carefully pry open the stubborn shells. The rhythm of scraping and cracking fills the evening air as they dig through the soft tissue, searching blindly for a hard, smooth sphere. Most shells are empty, thousands of them. The deck is quickly covered in discarded calcified husks. But then, a pause. A rough thumb brushes against something small, perfectly solid. He holds it up to the fading daylight. There it is. A natural Arabian pearl, glowing with a soft, iridescent luster against the grime of his calloused hands. There is no loud applause, just a quiet nod, a murmur of gratitude, and the stone is carefully handed to the captain, who places it gently in a small red cloth. You look at a pearl today sitting in a velvet box behind a glass case, and you see luxury. You see wealth. But sitting here on this imaginary deck, watching the exhausted men eat a simple meal of rice and dried dates under a canopy of stars, you realize that this tiny shimmering bead is actually made of suffering. It is made of held breath, blistered fingers, aching lungs, and months away from family. The exquisite beauty of the pearl is deeply tangled with the hardship of the people who brought it to the surface. When the boats finally return in late September, the creek transforms. The air is electric. Families wait by the water for hours. There are tears, embraces, and the frantic counting of the crew as the boats dock to ensure everyone came back. The smell of burning out and sweet spices fills the air to welcome the men home. Then comes the trade. Let us walk into the old souks of Deira. Even today, the gold markets glitter with overwhelming brilliance. But long ago, the real power was in the hands of the pearl merchants. They sat on beautifully patterned carpets, drinking small cups of bitter Arabic coffee poured from brass pots. They did not use modern scales or harsh artificial lights. They evaluated a pearl by the soft natural daylight near an open window. They judged the luster, the shape, the weight, sorting them carefully through small brass sieves. They negotiated prices without speaking a single word, their hands hidden beneath a red cloth. This silent haggling, pressing specific fingers to signal offers, was a system built on profound trust and discretion, ensuring that no one lost face and business secrets remained secure within the tight-knit community of the souk. These pearls would soon travel across oceans. They would be carried to Bombay, to Paris, to New York. They would hang around the necks of royalty, aristocrats, and film stars. The people wearing them in grand European ballrooms would never know the name of the man who risked his lungs in the dark waters of the Gulf to pull it from the seabed. This trade built the early infrastructure of Dubai. The coral stone houses in the historic districts, crowned with elegant wind towers known as bargeal, an ancient, ingenious form of air conditioning designed to capture the breeze, were built by wealthy pearl merchants. The very foundation of the city's cosmopolitan nature, its identity as a global trading hub where cultures intersect, started with the buying and selling of these tiny ocean tiers. And then, very suddenly, it all stopped. In the early decades of the 20th century, the world changed. Cultured pearls flooded the market from Japan. They were perfectly round, abundant, and cheap. The global economic depression hit shortly after. Suddenly, the natural pearls of the Gulf were no longer needed. The market collapsed almost overnight. Imagine the heavy silence that fell over the docks. The wooden dhows sat rotting in the shallow waters. Families who had relied on the sea for generations faced devastating poverty. Men who knew nothing but the rhythm of the ocean found themselves stranded on the sand. It was a dark, quiet period for the region. But humans are deeply resilient. The people of the Emirates pivoted. They returned to the creek, transforming Dubai into a fierce, bustling trading port to survive the lean decades, until eventually the earth opened up and offered oil. The city began to climb upward, reaching for the sky, leaving the seafloor behind. Glass and steel replaced coral stone and wood. Yet, if you sit with an Emirati elder today, you will not hear them talk about the oil with the same profound reverence they use for the pearls. Oil is economics. Pearling is identity. We are sitting in a majlis, a traditional reception room, where guests are welcomed on low cushions, the air heavy with the sweet, ancient smoke of frankincense. An old man is pouring coffee for us. He is the grandson of a diver. He brings out a small, worn wooden box. Inside are not pearls, but the tools of survival. A nose clip, a woven basket, a brass scale. He handles them with a tenderness that makes the room feel sacred. His hands move slowly over the rough fibers of the basket. He tells us that the youth today drive fast cars and live in comfort, but they are still taught the old songs of the sea. They learn about the geis and the sieb, the diver and the puller, understanding that one could not survive without the other. Without understanding that shared struggle, without knowing the heavy weight of that rope, you cannot truly understand what it means to be from this land. The luxury of modern Dubai is a recent chapter, but its soul was forged in the salty, suffocating depths of the Gulf. The sun is fully down now. We are standing back by the edge of the creek. The water is reflecting the neon lights of the modern city, glowing green and blue and red against the black ripples. The wooden trading boats still glide past the glass skyscrapers, a quiet reminder of where everything began. The sound of the engines hums over the water, replacing the chants of the sailors. When we travel, it is so incredibly easy to be blinded by the spectacle of the present. We look up at the tallest buildings in the world and marvel at what human engineering can achieve. We see the wealth and we assume it was always here. But true culture is rarely found looking up. It is found looking deep. It is found in the memory of the hands that built the first foundations, the voices that sang out into the empty ocean to keep despair away, and the enduring bond between two men on a wooden boat, trusting each other with their lives. The era of the great pearl fleets is gone. The ocean floor is quiet. The wooden clips and brass sieves are in museums or kept in quiet homes. But the spirit of the diver, the raw courage to plunge into the unknown darkness and return with something beautiful, remains woven deeply into the very fabric of this city. It is in the ambition of the people, the resilience of the culture, and the quiet dignity of the elders who remember the taste of the sea. Thank you for sharing this journey. I'm curious, when you look at a pearl now, how does its story change for you? Tell me in the comments. If you value these quiet moments of human history, subscribe and join us for the next journey. Until then, keep looking beneath the surface.